Robert, back to you. You were talking about this intuition that the ancients latched into, this internal magic, so to speak.
Yes, let me set the scene here. You know, we tend to forget that we are made up of many aspects. And nobody will deny, however scientific you want to be, that there is an aspect of human existence that is unseen, that is untouchable, that is unmeasurable, but it's there. You know, we think, you know, and we can't measure this, we can't weigh it, you know, we can't assess its empirical value, but we think. And we think with a plasma inside our head that we call the brain. It's quite an amazing thing. But we also are equipped with sensory abilities. And it's quite amazing to me how sensory we are. We have, well, I don't want to go into that. I think that it's obvious to everybody that we are a rather mysterious creature on a rather mysterious universe. You know, we have to accept this. And we're not the end of evolution. Modern man has only existed, as far as we know, for the last 200,000 years. We can push back the human experience 7 million years, but this cosmological environment we're in is at least 14 billion years old. You know, it's rather striking when one looks at it this way, that this universal system, of which our solar system is part and our galactic system is part, has existed without us for billions upon billions of years.
That's an infinity our finite minds are sometimes hard-pressed to grasp.
Well, what I'm leading to is that, you know, we don't know it all. You know,
right.
we are very embryonic in the cosmological evolution. Having said this, we are nonetheless a product of it. You know, I always quote this famous phrase from Carl Sagan. You know, we are star stuff. We're made of star materials.
Yes.
But we are star stuff become conscious. Which is quite extraordinary. We're made literally from the same matter that created the universe from the very beginning, from the first bang, if you like. We are of that matter. And our evolutionary on this planet is part of that cosmological evolution. We contain within us the origins of the universe. And we are locked into not only a genetic system, but in a DNA that is still unexplored. And I wouldn't be surprised if all the knowledge is within us. But we need to know how to unravel it, to tap into it. Because I can tell you something about me.
Well,
I have to say, and I haven't said it often, but I do say it in my talks these days, that when I intuited the Orion correlation theory, and my wife is a witness to this, she's sitting in the sofa at the moment, listening very carefully, we were living in Saudi Arabia. And at the time, I was not as involved as I am now in Egyptology. I was working as an engineer, but I had developed an interest in pyramid studies. I began to read a bit here and there, but very, very sparsely. And on several nights, she used to find me, or rather not find me in bed, and I was out sitting on a chair, looking at this constellation, Orion, and I would tell her, I don't know why I'm doing this, but I'm kind of lured to do this. And I'm very, very convinced that I pulled out knowledge from within. I can't explain it. I cannot confirm it. And I'm very resistant to this because I come from that engineering background, but I am convinced intuitively that the knowledge expressed itself from within. And it so happened that hardly a few days later, with various circumstances taking place, I was in the desert, and that's when I made the correlation. So I began to be very interested in this form of understanding who we are. And I think we tend to forget this. I think we forget that perhaps we are meant to also look within rather than just without. Excuse me. And we have to learn again what system of initiatory schooling was practiced in Egypt. This is why ancient Egypt is very interesting today.
You are hitting on something, by the way. Sorry to interrupt your thought right there, but you're hitting on something that we all tend to talk about. John and I, Laird Scranton, some of the other people that are going to be at the symposium this fall. We all talk about these things as saying, and there's a bit of hesitancy as we start to talk about them, because we want to be perceived as approaching things academically, and to talk about spirituality or intuition or the things within tends to fly in the face of more or less of the scientific community. And so to talk about them, we have this hesitancy that we want to say, almost apologetically, I need to talk about this intuition. But then it becomes something that once we crack that shell, we just crack it wide open, because that is what's there, and that's where it's coming from. And it's unexplainable, it's unidentifiable, it is unquantifiable or qualifiable, if you will. And that's what makes it difficult to express in any kind of academic setting. But when you're talking about these things, Robert, you're hitting the nail on the head, so to speak, with both John and I.
Well, you know, Scotty, I had exactly the same problem at the Paradigm last year of how to present my findings or my presentation, which was very esoteric and hermetically based. And in here is Robert talking about various aspects that pertain to that particular research itself. And Robert, I'm listening again. Fascinating stuff you're coming out with here. Fascinating.
Yes, you brought the academics again, and again I indicate that we're talking here specifically about Egyptology and Egyptology. Right. And let me tell you, they're light years away from the kind of academia or other science that we need to bring into the discussion. And I'm specifically thinking about cosmology. I keep throwing names, but it's true. I did meet a lot of people, and I had the good fortune of talking to some top cosmologists on these matters. I met and I did a few conferences with Dr. Chandra Wickramasinghe, the cosmologist and astrophysicist at Cardiff University. We went on lectures in Tenerife together. We had many, many opportunities to talk about these various subjects. I met not long ago, I'm trying to remember when, Mika Kaku, the American cosmologist.
Yes.
Mika Kaku, yes. I met him in Switzerland, of all places, at the Eric von Däniken conference. But when you talk to these people, you realize that we need to bring cosmology back very much into the equation, because this is what ancient Egypt was all about. The Egyptians are telling us, or rather expressing themselves in cosmological terms. The pyramid is, for lack of better words, a cosmological monument. It is intended for a cosmological purpose, metaphysical and physical, because it's there. The ancient Egyptians or rather the pyramid texts, oddly enough, say more or less the same thing as what cosmologists are saying today. That we are from stellar origin, that we belong to a celestial origin, and so forth. I mean, it's kind of intriguing. And it is possible that they were seeking what we're seeking, but using internalized research. This is very much what I think. Coming now to present day thinking, when you talk to a cosmologist, and when he's a bit more relaxed and had a glass of wine and is willing to open up, he will tell you that, they're totally baffled with this universe. I mean, every day everything changes of what it is and what its origins, and if it indeed had an origin. But one thing that we all seem to commune together is that we are made of it. We are it. And the beginning, I mean, I remember being totally fascinated by something that I was told by Mitra Kaku. He said, you know what, Robert, between ourselves, cosmologists, we call cosmology crazy science. You have to be totally crazy to reason it out. It's far, far more mysterious than mysterious is. And it gets more mysterious every day. But he said something to me that, he said, look, here is where we stand more or less. And this was something like 8 years ago, so I don't know exactly where they are today. But he said, look, the universe that we are in now, you and I, is held together by two constants. One is the gravitational constant, and the other is the speed of light. And if we are to tweak the most distant fraction of either of them, this universe doesn't exist. Now, what are the odds of having two constants being precisely what they should be to have this universe exist? So the conclusion is, we either have to consider an infinite number of universes of which we're it, the one that works, or at least works in the way we see it, or it was designed. You know, and both are crazy to consider.
Absolutely. Isn't that the big debate underlying everything?
So, we're not getting there. You know, in my opinion, we're not getting there with externalized science. It just brings more questions and more crazy science. And perhaps one day we will be there. But I think what the ancient Egyptians did, and perhaps we should start doing again, is to start using our intuition. And I think that they were satisfied as well. Now, we live in a culture that doesn't do this, but they were satisfied that if they felt or knew the answer, they didn't have to prove it. You know, we think that if we can't prove something, you know, if we can't weigh it and measure it and calculate it and expose it and falsify it, it doesn't exist. But
all about matter and chaos.
Exactly. And there are many things that, in fact, most of human existence is based on something that we can't measure, we can't weigh, we can't even explain. We call it love.